but it's not really scrutiny, it's more just direct harassment from the kind of people who hate Muslim people and the kind of people who hate trans people. Labour has kind of abandoned that thread of socialism that used to run through the party, and all the socialists within the Labour Party are realising that this is the place where they can make the most change. It made me not want to run for council because I was quite worried that, like, if I won, I might end up representing the man who did that to me.
Eden, thank you so much for sitting down with me today. How are you?
I'm actually really great, yeah.
Yeah?
I can't lie.
Okay, it's only been 3 weeks since you've been elected.
Well, about 3 weeks.
About 3 weeks.
Yeah.
How's life as a councillor?
Interesting. It's been kind of fun. A lot of ups and downs, let's say. There's been ups and downs, but I will say that the ups are really great. Like, actually helping people with stuff has been probably the most important thing and the thing that makes it all worthwhile. So yeah.
Tell me about the downs. I want to know the
All the downs. Mostly people online, mostly things going on online, but yeah, that's all fine now.
No, that's true. So we spoke before you were elected. It's now 3 weeks since you've been elected. How do you think the campaign went? Tell me the positives, tell me the negatives, tell me everything.
I think the campaign went well. Obviously, the campaign went well. We won. And we won by one of the biggest swings in Leeds, if not the biggest swing. I can't remember. 60% of the vote. I think that went really good. And I think it's because of the issues we focused on. In this ward, London and Woodhouse, the main sort of issues are housing, green spaces, public transport. And we really pushed those things as something that, like, the Green Party can offer big changes towards. Like, we've been working with community organisations, Acorn Leeds, In the Name of Love, and a bunch of other people who have, like, strong ideas about what they want to see in terms of social housing here in Leeds. So yeah, I think that resonated with people more than other campaigns around the city, and yeah, clearly that was a really big win for us.
So since you've been elected councillor, what's been the biggest problem for residents? What's been, like, you get emails, for example. What is the number one thing people
The number one issue is housing. Like, 80-90% of the emails I get are about housing, and it's for good reason. Like, people are left in some pretty dire situations, and obviously it's because the council doesn't have enough council houses, so they're doing what they can to provide those things. But yeah, some changes in the system I think would be good, and are the kind of things that as the Green Party we could be pushing for. So yeah, housing always.
And this is mostly private renting, private properties.
Both. It's kind of both, like council housing, as in social housing, and private renting as well. Different problems in like a lot of different ways, and not all of them are the kinds of things that you'd expect. Obviously, damp and mold is a really big issue, but the council has a big team of people who are trying to deal with that kind of stuff and deal with it quickly. But yeah, there's always more that could be done, and pushing for residents to not be in really difficult situations where, like, health problems are getting worse is always the thing that we're trying to fix.
So for those that don't know, what's your main responsibility as councillor? What do you do on a day-to-day basis?
What do I do on a day-to-day basis? God, it's also varied and fun. It's a lot of meetings with lovely people who want to figure out problems with residents, like casework stuff. Answering emails is a really big part of the job, like emails from residents who have some pretty dire problems that they need sorting out. I mean, people obviously come to us when something's gone wrong, so quite often, like, people approach us with some pretty serious issues that need fixing, and yeah, the kind of problem that they've been having for a really long time that we can then try and deal with. But yeah, it just does mean trying to react fast to stuff, trying to not let things slip through the cracks. Yeah, those are like the main issues, is just contacting residents, dealing with it.
What shocks you then? So on the outside, you're going to be briefed on what a councillor would do, but since being a councillor, what shocked you? What do you think, do you know what, this is utterly wrong, something needs an overhaul here?
If anything, I'm sort of, it's kind of as I would expect. Nothing I think has shocked me when I came into the job, because, you know, we live in the city, we kind of experience the things, like, we are residents of the city. We know what happens, we know the issues that we're all facing, we know the issues that working class people are facing, as a working class person myself. So, yeah, nothing really shocks me and surprises me when we get into the council and there are issues to deal with. But being sort of like being on the inside and having that like internal view of the officers who are constantly dealing with that kind of stuff and the councillors who are trying to help as well, I would say it gives me hope that there are a lot of good people who are trying to do good things for as many people as possible. Yeah, I wouldn't say I've been shocked by stuff, but we're the kind of party that like approaches things in a realistic way where we know that there are problems and we're just trying to.
Funny that, because lots of people in the media would say the Greens are the most unrealistic party.
Well, yeah, but I think that's because people view idealism as unrealistic, whereas idealism itself is a positive thing, it's something to push for. I don't think it's a bad thing to say that nobody should be in poverty, no one should be homeless, no one should be suffering through all of these many issues that we're all facing. And working towards that, like, is the goal, whether it's through piecemeal reform, radical change, like, we're all pushing in the same direction. We've just got to get there. I don't think that's unrealistic. It's just, like, the process of turning idealism into reality eventually can be a long thing.
There's a big problem with central government not sending enough funds to local councils. I mean, councils are underfunded. So as a councillor, do you sometimes feel like it feels like an impossible task to get things done? Because ultimately, like, you can only find the money from somewhere, and often councils are making difficult decisions to cut services in one area to pay for something else, because ultimately central government isn't funding stuff. So is there a deep-rooted issue with central government that means you can't do your job effectively?
Well, yeah. I don't think it's about not being able to do my job effectively, like, as a councillor. Plus, I've only been here for 3 weeks, so we'll see how things go and see how things pan out. I don't want to make grand claims right now. But yeah, councils are underfunded. The vast majority of council budgets across the country have gone down, like, over decades. The workforces have been slashed. And in many ways, yeah, the councils are trying to respond to that by cutting as few services as possible, because obviously they affect people directly. But also just through efficiencies, like, within the council, trying to get things to be done as fast as possible, trying to also prevent problems from escalating to the point of becoming very, very serious issues, because those serious issues, not only are they, you know, terrible for residents because they're causing people problems in their day-to-day lives, but also they're expensive to deal with. So yeah, trying to prevent issues becoming more serious over time. I think that's the way that we can try and limit the amount of services that we're cutting through, like, efficiencies, I suppose. But yeah, ultimately, if the central government funded councils more, they would be able to have more council services.
So the Labour Party, they criticised the Greens for going into coalition with the Tories and some local councils. Interestingly, though, the Labour Party, or the Labour NEC, has blocked the Labour Party working with the Greens in local councils, so it feels like it's an empty attack line. But for those who are progressive, who support the Greens or float between Labour and the Green Party, is it always a bad thing that the Greens go into coalition with the Conservatives at a local level?
That is such a broad question. I think it completely depends on the local situation. Obviously, I think that it would be the kind of last resort situation, and especially here in Leeds, like, we have no reason to take deals with anyone, so we don't. Because ultimately, we'll get there eventually. We will have the power eventually, if we keep growing in the same way that we are. But yeah, there are places around the country that are, like, reform-controlled councils, where everybody within the council, as a councillor, you can kind of see that the reform-led council is causing problems for residents and ultimately leading to, yeah, the kind of issues that snowball and cause issues for the council themselves. So, making deals as minority parties or going into coalition would maybe not be a terrible thing to take away that power from reform. But again, I personally would not be advocating for that kind of thing.
So, do you have or do you have much experience with councillors from other parties?
It depends. Depends which parties you're talking about.
Well, okay, let's say Labour and the Conservatives.
Very little. Like, I mean, I have colleagues here in Little London Woodhouse, where they're both Labour, and they're lovely people. Like, and ultimately, outside of an election period, like, your role is to serve the residents of your ward. So we kind of just have to work together. And I know there are like party differences and political differences, but they kind of stay in the area and in the realm of like creating policy within the council chamber, that kind of area. The ultimate goal is to work together for your residents. So like day to day, no, we try not to have like disagreements about that kind of thing, because we should be prioritizing being efficient, working with residents, trying to make sure that like people's problems aren't escalating into crisis mode.
So the reason why I asked that question is because going back to sort of coalition building, have you, maybe not you personally in Leeds and in Little London and Woodhouse, but other councils where they've had to work with the Conservatives, when you speak to some of your councillor friends who aren't in Leeds, is there a consensus that the legacy parties like the Labour Conservatives, whilst you disagree with them on policy, they take it seriously, but reform are like another beast, that they don't even take working in local council seriously, and ultimately stopping reform, getting any kind of power in local council is the number one thing?
I think stopping reform is like the primary goal here. Like the rise of the far right across the country is going to be, yeah, a pretty awful experience for, well, for minorities, but also just for working class people in general. Like it's going to be pretty awful. And preventing that and sort of reducing harm, I think, is the primary goal. But I wouldn't say there's consensus on how to do that. We're all, again, pushing in the same direction, but no, I wouldn't say there's like a formal consensus on how to get there, and what to do. Working locally, I think, is going to be key, because then local people within local Green parties understand the issues in their area and they know how to fight in their area. Like in Leeds, we push against reform in some areas, but in my area, for example, reform was not a threat at all. So we primarily focused on beating Labour, because people here are angry at Labour. Labour have abandoned people, so we come in as the replacement because we think we can do things better. And I think we're slowly proving that we can.
Since your victory, you faced abuse. Mothinelli was at your count, and people were attacking Mothinelli, saying, "Oh, this he's a Muslim. He's socially conservative. How is he hanging around with?" I know, that's what they're saying. How can he be hanging around with Eden Hills? So basically, what we saw is transphobia and Islamophobia rolled into one. What's your reaction to the online attacks there, and over maybe the last couple of weeks too?
I'm not naive. Like, this was so going to happen, very obviously. Like, it has happened to me before. I've always been, like, very outspoken, like, anti-racist activist, anti-Islamophobia activist. And, yeah, that gets me the same kind of, I was going to say scrutiny, but it's not really scrutiny. It's more just direct harassment from the kind of people who hate Muslim people and the kind of people who hate trans people. Me and Muffin are friends. He was at the count because he was interested in seeing if I won, and he was happy when I did. And yeah, immediately after, I felt pretty awful because he's had a lot of can I swear? He's had a lot of shit from the media, and from far right people, because he's Muslim and because of the kind of person he is. You know, he's a Muslim socialist, so he's going to be pushing for left-wing policy. And yeah, I felt pretty awful when he was also in the firing line because of that. But also, there was a lot of people on the far right who were sort of projecting their own bizarre, violent fantasies onto Muffin and myself. Like, people, for example, people on social media who would say, Muffin, because he's Muslim, is of course going to be like violent towards me, or like he's going to throw me off a building or something like that. And Muffin, in reality, rang me the day after all of the nasty abuse online, and was like, "How are you? Hope everything's okay. They're only doing this to you because you're a woman and because they're misogynistic and they hate to see women being successful," which, can't say he's wrong. So ultimately it's their own kind of projection of what they would want to see happen. When in reality, like, there's so much solidarity between minority communities that you can't get rid of that. Like, they can fantasize about what's going to happen between, what do they call it? Like the Islamo trans socialist communist bloc or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, when in reality that just is, it's not real. Like, it's just not real. It's not the actual reality that people are living in. Like, within left-wing circles, we're all one, we're all together, we're all united, and yeah, we stand in solidarity with each other.
So when are you going to implement Islamo,
Should be, like,
communism,
Like,
trans utopian Leeds?
If I can get around to it, probably like next Wednesday.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, that works. That works.
stunning,
Yeah,
right.
cool.
Glad to see you.
I mean, I'll give you till next Friday, maybe. You know.
Okay, chase me up if I have.
Okay, I will. How have you? I know this is a broad question. Of course, this hasn't happened since the election, but I think it's amplified. How have you dealt with the abuse personally?
I've always had a lot of stuff like, yeah, having been online before all of this, like, I'm very, very used to being like a openly trans woman. That is the thing that really gets me, is quite often on like social media where I'm talking about like feeding the homeless or going to like councillor surgeries or things like that. There'll be people being like, is she trans? Like, yeah, like I am. And obviously they're doing it in this way where it's like, I've noticed this, and I want to like insult you and your appearance in some way. When in reality, like, I'm a very proud trans woman. I'm very open about this. This is not like something that I'm ashamed of or bothered by. So it kind of reveals something about them. And the way that they're not actually engaging with the words that you say, but like the person that you are. Which is a very shallow approach to politics and not the kind of thing that resonates with people.
As the local party, have they supported you?
Oh, the local party's been great, and the national party. Like, yeah. Some very wonderful people who are very helpful and especially good at, like, you know, providing support for this kind of thing. I've always been in therapy, so we're doing that too. But yeah, like, they've been pretty good at supporting me. My main concerns were obviously like safety issues. I was actually, I talked about this yesterday at the protest in town against the EHRC guidance. But like before the election in January, I got raped in town, in the city centre after a night out, and it was pretty violent. It was not nice, and it made me not want to run for council because I was quite worried that, like, if I won, I might end up representing the man who did that to me. But ultimately, like, both the council, the Green Party, and other people have been like super supportive in terms of like helping me feel safe around here. And yeah, I think it's the kind of thing you can get over eventually. It's hard, need a lot of support. And ultimately, it's the kind of thing that women go through all the time. Like, I was saying this yesterday, but every person I've talked to about that experience, every like woman, cis or trans, has had a similar experience or something that they wanted to say, that's saying this happened to me. So yeah, like, having that solidarity and realizing that we're all in community together and we all need to be united in feminist solidarity, has been probably the most healing thing. It's been helpful.
Well, thank you for sharing your story. I don't think we can ignore what's been happening in the last couple of weeks. The EHRC. Yeah. Of course, they've doubled down and they basically said you have to use the toilet. The gender you're assigned to at birth, that's the toilet you have to use.
Kind of. The guidance itself says that organisations can choose to provide single-sex services, and single-sex services would be restricted to the cis version of that sex only. So yeah, people can choose to do that, but quite often if people, I would imagine the response to this kind of guidance in a lot of places where people don't want, like, they have no desire to exclude trans people, is just to say, well, we're not providing women's services anymore. We're providing mixed sex services or unisex services, and it's just going to be unisex toilets everywhere. I know there are plenty of places in my ward who have said that that is how they're going to respond to the guidance. But ultimately, exclusion is not mandated. It's not the kind of thing that people need to do. But far-right and anti-trans and gender-critical groups will be pushing that as a line. And I think that that's going to scare a lot of organisations into responding in an exclusionary way. So I think the key is to get the messaging out that you don't have to exclude. You just have to work within the guidance, assuming that we can't form enough of a backlash to this kind of guidance that we can get it thrown out anyway.
But obviously, since the EHRC came out with what they said, though, we have had quote-unquote vigilante people going into Marks and Spencer's and filming people. Yeah, I'm sure you've seen the video. And well, it's harassment, right? That's what we're saying. But it's so quickly it's taken a dark turn, and more people are in danger. So, for our trans audiences, queer audiences who are watching, who feel like that negative changes happen so quickly. The UK used to be a fairly liberal place, and people considered it a place where it had strong rights for queer people. But now it's dramatically fallen very, very quickly. And I suppose what I'm trying to say is, what can we say to people who have seen the court decision, have seen political parties like the Labour Party that's supposedly progressive fall in line to it? What should our response be?
Who's our response?
We could start off with the Green Party and then we can widen it out to society.
I think the Green Party's general response is going to be that the guidance itself is completely unworkable. There needs to be like a parliamentary response that says, no, trans people's inclusion in gendered spaces should be allowed. There should be no restriction on this. This should be fine. Ultimately, we have had inclusive policies across the UK for however long, I can't even remember, since the Equality Act came into force, and there has been no vast problem. This is all a manufactured panic about trans people. They cherry pick studies, they push stories from anti-trans groups, they pick individual cases of violence and claim that this is like a systemic issue, when in reality it's just simply not. Like, the systemic issue of violence comes directly from cis men to women, cis and trans. It's just, it is manufactured. And the response from the Green Party will be that, hey, it is manufactured, we don't need to be panicking about this, we should be being inclusive. From the community itself, I don't know how to tell anybody how to live their lives. It's like, yeah, I have my way of approaching what I'm going to do in response to the guidance. Other people should do as they feel, make sure they're safe in their own body. As a community, politically, we should be coming together, we should be fighting this, whether it's in community organisations, whether it's in political parties. There are spaces for both of those people, or for both of those forces, I guess, to rise. There are plenty of trans positive, let's say, community organisations around Leeds, groups and movements that I think are doing really, really positive stuff. So yeah, I'm keen to see how that all goes, and hopefully it will have an inclusive impact. But ultimately as well, I think you said the UK used to be a fairly socially liberal place, and I think it still is. If you talk to people, actual people, real people.
But the TERFs are a loud minority.
Completely.
If you J.K. Rowling get a lot of likes on Twitter. But
trust and believe.
Not real life.
Yeah. She's going to be saying whatever she wants, and people will eventually realise that the sort of strand of exclusionary feminism that she's pushing is just, it allies itself with supremacy of all kinds. It's really just not the kind of thing that's going to result in women's liberation. Says all trans women.
The Greens have surged, as we know. 200. What's the latest figure now?
I don't know. 200. I should pay more attention.
You're a councillor. I thought you showed inside information.
The inside information. No, I don't get told anything.
So 230,000. That was
Something like that.
235.
220. Let's say between 220 230,000. 226.
A lot of people then.
That's a lot of people.
That's a lot,
A lot of
people.
lovely
From
people.
60,000, not even a year ago, to where you are now. You've been surging in the polls. You did very well at the local elections. But do you think there's still a lot of work to be done to go from a environmental conscious social justice party to a party which is a vehicle for the working class of this country?
Yes and no. So, for quite a long time, like, I joined less than 2 years ago, maybe even 2 years ago now, I can't remember, the Green Party. And in that time, when I joined, I started reading the policy platform that was mashed together over years of conferences, because all of our policy is decided at conference by democratic vote, and was very pleasantly surprised reading through all of that policy at how much, like, extremely progressive, pro-workers' rights, pro-social equality, pro-economic justice, pro-environmental justice policy that we had there already. Like, the background, the basis, I say, of Green Party policy is just fantastic. There's so much of it. And obviously there are problems, but it's all problems that people are, like, already working on fixing. And yeah, so that's why I would say that there's not like a load of stuff to do on policy, but in terms of communications, I met people on the doorstep who had either never heard of the Green Party.
They never heard of the Green Party.
Don't know who we are. Don't know.
Right. Because you're not a new party. Reform are new. The Greens have been around for decades.
But let's be honest, the Green Party was never like a serious electoral force up until, I don't know how many years ago, but let's say 10 years ago. And definitely not like a serious electoral force in terms of being able to actually like get into Parliament at some point, and have some kind of majority or some kind of like power in Parliament, up until very, very recently. So I'm not surprised when people say they haven't heard of us or they think of us as just an environmental party. So I think pushing the line that Zach has quite effectively been pushing, that environmental justice kind of is economic justice and it very much is social justice. You can't really have one without the other. Creating that like triangle, the little triangle of policy, and pushing that out to people and saying, hey, this is what we really stand for and this is how we're really going to be pushing for that, has been extremely effective in getting people on board, because all of a sudden, rather than talking about just climate change or just green spaces, you end up talking about workers' rights, you end up talking about the cost of living crisis, union relations and things like that, that people are concerned by and people are worried about. You know, cost of living crisis is consistently the number one policy that people care, or the number one issue that people care about, when it comes to why they're invested in politics in any way. So we should be addressing that and we should be working out ways to fix it. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think your policy prospectus is, and I've argued it online to Twitter.
Have you? Have you?
Have I? I have. With a lot of pushback. Like, yes, the policy platform of the Green Party is the most pro-working class. It's the most pro-workers' rights, for example. But interestingly, I did see someone say that might be the case, but they still feel like the Greens are maybe people inside it who are middle class, who have good politics, but not necessarily working class representation. Do you find internally, though, that there's still maybe work to be done to get actual working class people inside the Green Party? It's not just about policy, but having working class representation. Do you still feel like maybe there's still internally a bit of a middle class thing going on?
So I kind of have two things I want to talk about. So I can only speak about the Leeds Green Party because it's the only local party that I'm a member of. But being in the Leeds Green Party, I don't know what people are talking about when they say they like only encounter middle class people within the Green Party. We are on the vast majority of people within the Leeds Green Party are all working class people, whether it's working class young people, students, and people who have like manual jobs or service industry jobs, or people who are older who've like there are some people who are retired who are working class their entire lives. These are the kind of people that you're meeting every day, and the vast majority of those people are socialists. Yeah, like internally, I would say there's not really a problem with that. Image-wise, there has always been a problem, and in the past, it was probably true that the Green Party was mostly made up of, what do they call them, Green Tories. To an extent, there's still some problems with that kind of thing. Less so in Leeds, I would say. But no, I think that perception is kind of an older one, and things have moved on quite a lot. We've talked about the fact that we used to have 60,000 members and now we have 200 and however many thousand. Those people did not join because they were like middle class people who happened to have socially liberal views. They joined because they're desperate for change. And it's the only party that's actually offering a platform to achieve that. I think part of the perception, let's say, of the Green Party as middle class is like what people would consider middle class, because I have been told that I've been told online many times that like I come across as like being this aloof middle class, like above it all kind of woman, and I cannot stress like how far that is from the truth. Yeah, like I was about to go into a spiel about my life, and then I realised it would start sounding like my mother is a nurse and my father's a toolmaker, so I'm not going to do
Don't
that.
do that. Don't
I'm not
tell
gonna
me
do that.
your dad's a toolmaker.
But yeah, like, it's simply not the case. Yeah. And I think it is like this hangover of how we actually think about class in the UK, because if we take like this more Marxist view that things are actually about material relations, then all of a sudden things start slotting into place.
Yeah.
And people start realizing that like if you work for your money, if you're an employee, if you like create value through work, then you are working class. Like there are nuances to this, obviously, and now we're in the age where people aren't working in factories or being factory owners. Then yeah, there is a bit more nuance to it. But ultimately, if we have that kind of relation to class and material relations with each other, then it starts to fall into place, rather than just being this sort of nebulous idea about what class is, where like middle class people are well spoken, or like and upper class people speak with this kind of accent.
I get called middle class. I get called. I've been accused of being a public school boy. I never went to uni. I got 4 GCSEs.
Well, tell me.
What?
What were they in?
Oh, what were they in?
Yeah.
I failed maths.
You failed maths.
Passed English. Science.
Oh.
History. And basically, I was not academic. And creating content, being on YouTube, your accent does kind of change it a little bit anyway. I think when people meet me like off camera, they're like, "Oh, your Brazilian twangs come out a bit more."
Yeah.
It's code switching, right?
True. That is so true. Like being in a formal context, I realise how much my accent changes when I'm like talking.
Yeah. But as I would agree with you, as a Marxist myself.
Oh, as a Marxist myself. Oh, we're all Marxists at the end of the day, aren't we?
We're all Marxists, really. It is your relationship to production. Yeah. But what I ask you though, how much of socialism is actually within the Green Party? I mean, look, is there just at the moment a collection of people who are angry at the economic system, who are angry at inequality, poverty, all these bread and butter issues? But one thing that the Labour Party, I know that the Labour Party have had a rightward shift, but historically the Labour Party has always had an element of socialism inside it. There was a theory of change. Do you think that's lacking in the Green Party? A theory of change, which is okay, yes, we care about the bread and butter issues, but we need a broader ideology of socialism to attract the people who are still hanging on to Labour, but they love that red image, right? We've got the red-green alliance, right? But who can't quite make the jump to green, as in the party, but also the ideology, from the red, as in Labour. If you see what I'm trying to say here.
No, I completely get it. There are many things I want to say, which is parties are groups of people. And obviously they have a policy platform, but ultimately every single person's ideology is very different. And I have met people who are still in the Labour Party, still, you're hanging on, who are socialists. I've also met people in the Labour Party who don't have a socialist bone in their body. And I've met trade unionists who are in the Labour Party who are very much flirting with the idea of like getting involved with the Greens in some way. And I find that quite interesting because ultimately, like, it does show that Labour has kind of, that there is this rightward shift, isn't there? Like, Labour has kind of abandoned that thread of socialism that used to run through the party, and all the socialists within the Labour Party are realising that this is the place where they can make the most change. The Green Party is led by its members, it's member-led. We decide policy, we make up the membership, and we make the changes. So if people want to see the Greens pushed in a socialist direction, which I do, and which the vast majority of our membership now do,
do you think that's the case? Do you think the majority of membership do actually
I
want
would
to
say
push
so.
into socialist?
Well,
direction?
I would maybe say they wouldn't self-identify as socialist, but like in reality, when you talk to them, that's a socialist. That's someone who agrees with Green Party
You
policy.
think there's a genuine critique of capitalism within the Green Party, not just we need to raise the minimum wage, we need to reduce inequality, but you feel like there's genuine discussions into the party about
Depends who
how...
you speak to. I think it depends who you speak to, because again, parties are groups of people. Everyone has individual ideologies. I've met people in the Green Party who have way more political education than I will ever have, probably, and who understand these systems in such granular detail that I'm like in awe of like how easily they can explain things. Trying to get people to do a bit of political education is always going to be a good thing. Greens Organise, which is I want to say like left organising group within the Green Party, has been pushing to have more political education within the Green Party, because so many people join the Greens, so many people have joined recently, and not all of those people are like extremely active political people. They don't always have like a background in politics, they don't have the knowledge, which not everyone is ever going to have. But trying to give people that, like, and give people the opportunity to learn a bit more about how systems work, why we're advocating for these policies, not just advocating for the policies themselves. Yeah, I think that's going to be really helpful. So obviously, if you're in the Greens, join Green Organise. Do it now. Do it now.
Okay, so when you speak to people and they probably agree with your economic policies, right? Everyone agrees with public ownership, for example. Everyone wants to tax the rich. I mean, well,
Everyone,
most people.
yeah. You're like,
over a majority.
don't get me wrong. They do.
There is consensus on these sorts of policies.
I think so. Like most of them are. Yeah, it's all very common sense.
But is there aspects of the Green Party, maybe optically or on policy, that you wish you could bring people over but they can't? Let's just talk about immigration, for example. I mean, the Greens are often attacked from the political establishment. They support open borders. I know that's not your policy in the manifestos, but that's one thing, which is that reform have captured some kind of zeitgeist that immigration is a problem and they're attracting people there. And people might say, I really like the Green Party on your economic stuff. I don't know about immigration or other things. So is there a particular policy or set of policies that you're struggling to bring people over? Tell me how those conversations go about. And if you've convinced people as well, I'm interested to know that.
So I would say within the campaign, like, I'm in Leeds City Centre. Immigration does not come up that much on the doorstep. I think I have talked to you about this before. Like, it wasn't a common ask at all. I would say it got asked maybe once or twice, and then those people were easily convinced over to the idea that like we actually should be being as moral as possible, like treating people with dignity, making sure that people who are in this country aren't like, for example, like asylum seekers who aren't able to work should be given the access to work so that they can actually like create a life for themselves. Wouldn't that be good? And oh look, now they're on side, now they're on board. It's easy to actually have this conversation with people, assuming you are willing to have that, and coming at those people with the assumption that it doesn't always just come. It's not always just because of racism. Obviously, don't get me wrong. There are plenty of people opposed to immigration because they're flatly racist. They don't like seeing black and brown faces around their neighbourhood. They don't like it. And convincing those people over to the Green cause is very difficult, without like, some internal change within themselves where they realise that actually, black, brown, white, whatever. It's not a threat. Like we're all kind of in this together, guys. We're all struggling. Yeah, those people are harder to convince. Maybe they'll have a change, but it involves more than like one conversation on a doorstep, which is quite often all that you can feasibly offer. But those people are quite few and far between. And especially in the London Woodhouse, I've never met any of those people or at least who were actively speaking to us. So yeah, if immigration's it's not that sticking point anyway here, but I can't speak for elsewhere in the city, and I can't speak for elsewhere in the country. Yeah, there weren't that many sticking points for people who didn't want to vote for us. It was quite easy to convince
net
people.
zero come up?
No, not even once. Go on, ask about problematic policies.
Well, I mean, net zero is a good policy, but I'm interested in
the sticking points that people
sticking point to see how you can convince people, because obviously net zero is now
net zero never came up once. Immigration maybe came up once or twice.
Well, let's say okay, maybe not in the local elections because people are talking about local issues, but like your genuine conversations with people over the years about the Green Party, have these issues come up, and have you had to push
Not
back?
Really. No. It's like most people, when we explain our policy platform, are very much on board. It really depends on who you're speaking to, obviously. But yeah, it's quite. I hate to say it, guys, but it's actually a really well-reasoned and uncontroversial platform when it's actually explained. Don't get me wrong, there are ways of framing things that make us come across as, like you've said, unreasonable, overly idealistic, like utopian ideals, student politics, you could say. But that is framing and comms, and the Green Party has always had a problem with comms. Now it's a lot better, but in the past, it was pretty rough, like actually trying to explain how we're doing things. Part of that is because we didn't have the infrastructure within the party to do that. Now that's being built and it's getting a lot better. But also it's because of political education. You know, people join the party, they don't necessarily have the tools, the means, the background to be able to talk about, you know, deep policy issues with salience. And through through online education, through people just speaking to each other at community events and people speaking to each other at members' meetings, yeah, I think that's got a lot better recently.
Zach Walensky has transformed the party, in my opinion. I think we can all agree that it's certainly
I voted
had
for
certainly had some fortunes with his leadership. I think what he has done is successfully frame things around material conditions, which I think is really important. But is there, in your view, areas of course, there's always areas of improvement. But what would you like to see from the Greens, from a comms perspective? Because, of course, the Greens have had issues with comms, but what's missing right now? What would you tell Zach Walensky right now to do?
Stop apologising for, like, things that are clearly smears, things that they clearly do not need to have an apology over. Giving ground, I think, to the kind of bad faith attacks just leads into like this never-ending argument where it's the only thing that people are willing to talk about with you. I mean, he's been through it. Like he's had a lot of scrutiny, and yeah, like that's been pretty rough for him. So I'm not gonna tell him what to do, but apologize less, and sort of just push forward, because it's what the right-wing parties get away with constantly. I don't see Nigel Farage, I didn't see Boris Johnson like constantly apologising for things that they've done. They just got away with it because nobody needs to scrutinise them, because it's the kind of thing that's expected of them. Whereas when you're a left-wing party, you have to be like this perfect angel who's never made a single mistake.
It's like if you're on the left and you're seemingly wealthy, you're a hypocrite. If you're
well, it's a problem within. Don't get me wrong. Like the far right jumps on it. It's a problem within the left as well, where like we are morally policing each other all the time, and there is a place for that. But there's also like, guys, we're all pushing in the same direction. Let's just keep the action going. Let's keep us going that way. So yeah, and people overblow, I think, the extent to which it's leftists doing it, when in reality it's far right people or far right wing people who are not affiliated, let's say, with the left, who want to focus on those issues, because ultimately, it's not helping your cause from the guy who hates your
Who
cause.
does not care about your cause whatsoever. I love that meme. Back to being a councillor. You are the first person who I voted for that won. So I've never voted for anything that won. I voted for the Greens in 2015, Labour in 2017, 2019, the Greens in 2024. Every single time my vote did not win, but I voted for you, and you won. So that's a bonus. I'm very happy about that. Over the next couple of years, I appreciate you just one councillor who I'm speaking to, but over the next couple of years, what's your plans for big grand ideas? Even if just one policy you would
Where
like
do you
to see.
see yourself in 5 years?
Where do you see yourself in 5 years? This feels like a job interview now.
Yeah.
No, even if there's just one policy you would maybe like to see implemented in the next 5 years, what would you like to see?
Ooh, one policy I want to see implemented. That's a really good question. So, I think that the Renters' Rights Bill, for example, that's just gone through, is good, and it needs to go further. And I would like, for example, if I was on the national stage and if I was in the national government, that would be the kind of thing I want to push for, you know, because it got watered down over the course of it going through Parliament. And I think that, yeah, there's a lot more that could be done there. Renting is pretty awful at the moment. Like, being in the rental market is just terrible. From my own experience, but also from residents contacting me and talking about it. It's, yeah.
What kind of stuff have you
It's
heard
the kind of stuff
from-
that just drains people's bank account.
What kind of stuff have you heard from renters who've still got a
Oh,
problem?
well, just the way the landlords treat them, the way they don't respond to things, repairs being left over and over and over and over again, constantly being, like, conditions within the flat getting worse, and it's not their responsibility to fix it, so then it's the landlord's responsibility, but the landlord doesn't do anything. Yeah, just never-ending things like this. I think the Renters' Rights Bill should go further, let's just say that. You could say that.
I mean, that is your national policy.
It is the
isn't
national
So-
policy, yes. I voted for it at our last conference in August. Abolish landlords. It's a great title. When you actually read the policy itself, it doesn't go that far. But yeah, the abolish landlords motion, the thing that we voted through, is the kind of thing I would encourage people to read, because it would, if those things were implemented, make conditions for renters, which make up the vast majority of people who are in this ward and in this constituency and in the city. Yeah, it would improve conditions a lot, and not really detriment all that many people. So read it. Viewers at home.
Eden, thank you so much for sitting down
No
with me.
problem.
Absolute pleasure.
Thank you for having me. So kind.